right. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the In Action series. Today I have the beautiful Miss Christy Lewis, and she is here to help us take action with our mental health. It's so important that we acknowledge what is going on with us. And this is just going to be a conversation as it has been over the last month. And especially with the holidays coming up, I thought it very, very, very relevant for us to talk about mental health. As for some, the holidays can be a trigger. Um, I know last year, this time, I was caregiving, um, and the holidays don't feel the same. So, Christy is going to help us, and I'm just really excited because this topic is very near and dear to me. So, I would like to welcome Miss Christy Lewis to the In Action series.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes, thank you for agreeing to come on.
Mm-hmm.
As I said before, I am leveraging all of my relationships. So, Christy actually is one of my dear friends. I consider her a sister. I love her so much.
Oh,
And yes, we love each other.
we do.
We love each other. But she's really just a godsend. And as I think about the community that we are building here in the Action Taker community, we are people who are taking action in all areas of our lives. But if our mental health is not where it needs to be, it's going to be really hard for us to do some of
Mm-hmm.
the other things that God has called us to do. So I want to get right into it.
Let's go.
So as I ask everyone, every series is who are you, and how do you help people take action in their mental health?
When I saw that question, I was like, wow. And instantly, two things came to mind for me.
Okay.
One, by profession, I'm a mental health clinician, I'm a social worker by trade. But then I also went a little further
Okay.
because I'm a mom,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a daughter,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a friend,
Yes.
I'm a sister,
Yes.
and I am a Christian.
Yes, you are.
And all of those things have, all of those things have taken me through various experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And I use those experiences to help people take action.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I don't know if you remember, we used to have a class at church called Shape,
Absolutely, I do.
and the E is for experiences. And
Okay.
the whole point of that is for you to use your experiences to help people find their purpose, right? It's
Absolutely.
because everything that we go through is not wasteful.
No,
We
nothing.
can take that and use it for good. And so through all things that I have survived, even
Mm.
I was like, wow, it's my experiences that really help people to take action too. So all of those things.
All of those things.
Yeah.
Because, I initially was just thinking about you and your profession.
Mhm.
So I was like, okay, tell us how you do
Mhm.
that. But I know you help people as a counselor.
Mhm.
I know just before you got on, you had
I did.
yeah, you helping people all the way up to all the
Absolutely.
way up to here.
Mhm.
So very good. So my next question to you was, how important is it to know your family history
Mhm.
around mental health?
So it is very important. However, there are, you know, various people who don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And so as you go through life, right? And things start to come up and arise. you may start to have symptoms that you say, you know what, I remember when Uncle so and so used to do this, or I
Okay.
remember seeing my mom, have these bouts where she was really sad, right? And we have to also remember that mental health was not necessarily addressed,
No.
even 20 years ago,
Oh yeah.
that
Yeah.
it wasn't necessarily addressed the way that it should have been. Not to mention that in our African American culture,
That part. That's
it is not, a lot of times it was like, what goes
taboo.
on in my house stays in my house. Like, we're going to
Yeah.
keep that on the low. And so you may not know, like, it may not be a thing that was necessarily addressed.
Yeah.
However, those are things that because you remember seeing that and recall that, those are things that if you decide you're gonna, even talking to your medical doctor, though, they want to know your medical history, because now you notice your medical doctor is asking about your mental health as well.
Absolutely.
So if there are symptoms that you realize, share those.
Yeah.
If you have your parents are still living, even your siblings, because your siblings may remember things, or your cousins, talk about those things. Those are things that we should openly
Absolutely.
discuss. So if you do know and it was addressed, because I have clients who talked about, yeah, my uncle was schizophrenic. So, like, there was some extreme mental
Mm-hmm.
health
Mm-hmm.
diagnoses that were addressed, but some of the things that are very common, anxiety,
Anxiety,
depression,
depression.
yeah,
Right.
those are the things that weren't necessarily addressed that really happen
And probably
most
were
commonly.
under and misunderstood.
Absolutely.
And I think it's so important to talk about it. I know with my son, I've always talked to him about it
Mm-hmm.
because one, you can't be afraid of it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm a firm believer of
Mm-hmm.
if I know what the battle is, I
Mm-hmm.
can prepare for the
Absolutely.
fight, right? And so also on both sides of the family,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I know me personally, uh, mental health is on both sides of my family,
Mm-hmm.
and um, it's it's something that I wouldn't say it's not addressed. It's known,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know how far we have, as a family, addressed it.
Mm-hmm.
I know for my own self, just looking back in my own life, I realized how much mental health I've dealt with.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's hard for sometimes for people to even acknowledge
Mm-hmm.
what they have experienced in their own life. You know,
Mm-hmm.
people look at you and they just sometimes people can just assume,
Mm-hmm.
that you never had a bad day,
Mm-hmm.
or you've never had low moments.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so important. And I have people who are very, very, very close to me who have been diagnosed as schizophrenic,
Mm-hmm.
um, are depressed,
Mm-hmm.
um, do have anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
I had a team member of mine who, you know, she wasn't herself, and I was like, "What's going on?" And she told me, and I took her to the clinic,
Mm-hmm.
and she's doing better now.
Good.
But it's because she didn't have any support at home. She told her
Mm-hmm.
mom. She's a young adult. She's I think she's like 19 or 20, but I could relate to
Mm-hmm.
her because I know how important it is. And if your family isn't supporting you, if your
Mm-hmm.
family is still not acknowledging it, if, like you said, what goes on my house stays in my house.
Mm-hmm.
There was a time where people who had mental health issues, like, they never let them go out the
That's
house. They
right.
kept them in the basement. It was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I thought you had 4 kids. I only see 3. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like, it was
Mm-hmm.
a point of shame, and it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We need to heal from that stigma
Mm-hmm.
of mental health, and we need to embrace what we have so that we can heal from it.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes it's the denial of it that
Mm-hmm.
makes it worse.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
It
um,
is, and not even just denial, overlooking,
mm,
minimizing it,
yes,
and just pushing it to the side. And that's not okay either. And
Absolutely not.
that a lot of times is what families do, especially maybe if the family's prominent,
Mm.
hold certain positions,
Oh, wow.
even sometimes in the church, you know, it's like, well, no, you don't want to say that that's going on, but it is.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Mhm.
No one is exempt.
You got that
Okay,
right.
nobody is getting out
Mhm.
of this life
Mhm.
unscathed. Okay,
Mhm.
like everybody has trauma, everybody has hurt, everyone.
Mhm.
Okay, you don't get to own trauma.
Mhm.
It belongs to everybody,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
It just shows up in people's lives in a different way,
Yeah.
and it manifests itself in people's lives in different ways.
Mhm.
Like I said, in one of my books, in the first one, I talk about my struggle with food.
Mm.
That's a form of mental health.
Absolutely.
Okay, and using food as a way of coping
Mhm.
with things, right?
Mhm.
And so,
Mhm.
every I'm not going to say everyone has something, but you have to be willing to look
That's right.
honestly within yourself
Mhm.
to see what are the things that I'm struggling with and what are the
Absolutely.
triggers of those things. So,
Mhm.
and I don't want to get ahead of
Mhm.
myself because we got a lot to talk about. But like I said, this is a topic that is very near and dear to my heart. Um, and so, I just pray that we'll do a better job of supporting,
Yeah.
yeah, each
Yeah.
other. And sometimes it's hard because some people with certain mental health issues, no matter how much you help them, they're, I've
Mhm.
been in that place too, where
Yeah.
I've tried to help, where I've had them come live with me, where
Mhm.
I've done those things, and sometimes it's you find yourself in a losing battle, right?
Mhm.
Because it's what I found in that situation, the person wasn't willing to accept where they were mentally.
Mhm.
They told
Mhm.
me I was the one with the problem. I was like, I do have some problems, but this
We all do.
this problem here I want to help you with. But
Mhm.
um so I do think that we need to do a better job of acknowledging
Absolutely.
and supporting with that.
Mhm.
Okay, next question.
I love this question.
I know you were waiting for this one.
This is my soapbox question.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and set it up. How can you use your faith, the Word of God, to
Mhm.
support someone without minimizing their struggle?
So this is a loaded question for
It
me.
loaded.
It's very loaded. And I started typing, and I said, "Oh wait, oh wait a minute, oh," because you got to be careful.
Well, do we? That's
And
another part. I think that's why
well,
we all kind of messed up too, because we all dancing around everything. Everybody's so afraid to offend somebody. Go ahead.
well, here's the thing, and when I listen to what I'm about to say,
Go ahead.
I said faith should be used as a word of hope
Mm-hmm.
and not a minimizer or a weapon.
Mm. I can definitely see the minimizer and the weapon.
Yes,
Because, like, if you really trusted in him,
yes,
you wouldn't be, that's not how
exactly.
that
It
works.
needs to be used as hope. And
Mm-hmm.
so
I love that.
I said we can't just tell people to pray about it and leave it there. You can't. You
That
can't.
part. Okay.
Stop telling people just
Stop.
pray about
Stop
it.
telling. Still pray about it,
Yes.
but don't tell people that's the
Don't
only
leave it
thing you
there.
got to do.
Yeah.
There's something.
When it's
That's that
clearly
faith
other
without
things.
action. Okay, so you
Come
got to
on.
have the faith and the
Come
action.
on.
That's the whole. This whole
Together.
community is built on that. It all go
Together.
together. It's
Together.
1 + 1 = 2.
Yes.
Faith and action.
Mm-hmm.
There it is.
Mm-hmm. A minimizer or a weapon.
Weapon. Mm.
Okay. It should be used as hope. And hope is what sustains us.
Yes.
And so that's the part for me, is that like we can as ministers, because we're all ministers,
Absolutely.
ordained or not,
Ordained.
we're ordained by God.
Amen.
But when we're in this walk, we have to see people for, for who they are, right? And meet them where they are. I could tell you to pray about it, but I'm also going to say, but have you considered talking with someone, right? I'm not going to see your husband slap you.
Mm.
And I'm going to say, well, you need to stay with him so, because that's what the word of the
Lord
Lord
said.
says. No, we can't do that.
Misinterpretations.
Right.
Okay.
And so that's what I'm saying, to minimize. We can't use that as minimizing. And that kind of uses as a weapon too, because
Yeah.
then you're kind of threatening the people like, well, something's going to happen to me if I leave my husband. But he's abusing me.
Mm-hmm.
And women do it too. Let me be clear. Women abuse too.
Yeah.
And so we should not tell anyone to stay in any space or with any abusive relationship. That's even friendships,
Mm.
and
Talk about that.
even relationships with families. We have to have boundaries.
Mm.
If
Boundaries.
if
I'm a
if you
queen of that.
yeah, if you're in relationship with someone, or if your cousin is disrespecting you, guess what? I'm gonna put a boundary up.
Absolutely.
I'm
Absolutely.
gonna watch the relationship that I have with you, and if need be, I'm gonna have to cut you off, family or not.
Love you from afar. Like,
Yes,
there are a lot of
yes.
people who I love so
Mhm,
much, but
mhm.
it's not healthy for us to coexist
Yeah,
in the same space.
yeah.
And you have to understand that,
Mhm,
and you just have to accept that,
mhm,
and
mhm.
I'm gonna tell you one thing: I do not like one-way relationships.
Right.
I do not like relationships where I only hear from you for one thing.
Mhm,
It's only when it's
mhm,
like that, I still love you, but then I
mhm,
understand who I am to you,
mhm,
and that's a boundary.
mhm,
Then I have a boundary
mhm.
because I realize that's the only thing I am to you, and
Absolutely.
outside of that, that's it.
Yeah.
So I've learned to put boundaries up everywhere.
Absolutely. Everywhere.
Otherwise, I won't have this,
Mhm,
because that's another reason why. Because sometimes we're so busy trying to be everything to everybody
mhm,
that we can't be there for ourselves.
mhm,
I
mhm.
like that one. But the
So
faith part.
the faith. So going back to that, I said God takes care of all things. However, He also gives you help
Mm,
and a way of escape. Now that's the
always the
word.
way of escape.
That's the word. That's clear word there.
Woo-hoo-hoo. He always
He
give a
has
way of
put
escape.
people in position to help.
Yes.
And ministers in the church cannot be counsel to all things. There are people
No.
who are licensed
Absolutely.
that can help with the mental health aspect, and that shouldn't even be a that burden shouldn't be on the ministers.
Mm.
That should the burden on them should be, well, you know what, I'm gonna pray for you, and then I'm gonna send you to counseling. That's why I
Counseling.
love that we have a counseling center
Oh yeah, at our
at our
church.
church. That's a
Absolutely.
wonderful thing, and the council covers a multitude of
Two.
things.
Yeah, we have grief counseling.
Yeah,
Um,
individual,
yeah,
family,
family.
all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that, you know, I just want to be clear that when you start to see people with symptoms,
Mm. Yeah, and I think that was going into the next question.
yeah,
Yeah.
you start seeing people with some symptoms, even if it's seasonal depression, because
Mm-hmm.
depression doesn't have to be, I'm just sad all year round.
Right.
Depression doesn't even have to be that you're sad. Depression can look very clearly like, I can't focus.
Mm.
I can't even sit here and focus on one thing that I need to, because, oh, the bird just flew by. Oh, let me go, do that, because you're avoiding.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks different for
Absolutely.
different things, and it doesn't have to be long periods of time. The seasons just change. It gets dark earlier.
Very dark.
People
Mm.
struggle with that
Very,
so bad.
very, very badly.
Yeah, and so when you start to see those things, stop just telling people to pray about it. Ask them who they're talking to. Encourage them. Hey, let's go out for dinner. Hey, let's
Mm-hmm.
go do some things that's gonna get you out of the house. There are so many other things that we can use besides just telling them.
To pray.
Yes, just telling them to pray, but also just using the Bible against what the situation is, and it doesn't have anything to do with.
Yeah, no, the Bible definitely should never be. The weapons is for the enemy,
Mm-hmm.
not on
Mm-hmm.
somebody
Mm-hmm.
when they're struggling with an attack from the
Mm-hmm.
enemy, because it
Mm-hmm.
is spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the weapons are not carnal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
we know it's spiritual, but it's very real.
Yeah.
It's very real,
Yeah.
and so we need help to fight this war of the mind.
Absolutely.
Um, and you said something about it shows up differently for everyone
Mm-hmm.
and knowing the symptoms. And I think that was going into the next question, which is what are some things that we shouldn't ignore if we start to experience them, and how should and should we seek help for it?
Yeah. So when you can't manage your emotions,
Mm.
what does that
Ooh.
look like? I'm just crying. You ever heard folks just say, "Oh, I just crying today." If you have more than one of those, and
Mm-hmm.
you don't understand what that is, you probably should start to seek some counseling. Seek someone to talk with.
Mm.
If you're what's called ruminating, meaning that it's the same thoughts over and over again, and they aren't necessarily positive thoughts,
Okay.
and you're sabotaging yourself,
Self
can't
sabotage.
move it forward, you probably should seek some help. When you are um, even feeling like you're stuck,
Okay.
like you're not able to manage even daily tasks, and you can't get things finalized and finished. Everything is just undone,
Okay.
and
Everything
you
is in pending status.
yeah, yeah, then it's okay to sit and talk with someone. And let me be clear that when you seek counseling, that doesn't mean you're going to be in counseling for even a
Right.
year.
Right.
You can go in there and say, look, here are the things that I want to work on. I've seen folks turn things around in 3 months.
Wow.
Very short time, because you come in with a purpose. Like, I got these things that I want to get done. And the thing is that when you come in deliberate with knowing, like, here's some things that I need to work on. But sometimes, let me also be clear, sometimes you don't even know what it is.
Right.
You just coming. You just like, I don't know, it's just something
Something
wrong.
wrong. Something wrong.
Then leave it up to that clinician to be able to ask you the right questions
Yeah.
to put it all together. And sometimes you may think you kind of all over the map. Like when folks sit with me and they're just talking, and they talk about something that happened in 1978, then they talk about something that happened, 2010, and they're going all over the place. And then they say, "Oh, I'm just rambling." I said, but it all comes together.
Right. Yeah.
It does, because sometimes that's even your trauma map.
That part.
Okay, and but it all comes together, because that's how your mind is going. And sometimes they even realize, like, oh, like,
I didn't even
my
realize I
mind's
was
all over
over
the
the
place.
place. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So those are some of the things. Anxiety is a real thing, and more people are struggling with
I
that
noticed that.
than ever before. I'm a total nerd and about the brain, and it just makes me
Mm.
wonder, like, what are we eating, or
Mm.
what's in the environment that is causing such angst, right? It's so many things.
One of
And
them same
so
thing.
if you feel that when you're you're outside and you get around people, and it's like you start feeling your heart racing,
Mm.
and you feel like, I got to get out of here.
Like social anxiety.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you might want to talk to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
If when you have to go and do, some talking in front of folks, and you just start feeling overwhelmed to the point that, you can't, like, sometimes I have even heard my heartbeat in my ears, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or your heart is racing, you're sweating, whatever, and you can't manage it, right? To the point where, you got to storm out and you can't get it done. There are some of us who because I struggle with it. Like, them first 5 minutes, I'm like, woo. But then after the 5 minutes, I'm okay.
Yeah.
But if you can't manage past that in 5 minutes, and you are struggling through that whole thing, sweating, you feel, then you might want to talk to somebody. If you're driving and you have an accident in the rain,
Mm.
then what do you think is going to happen the next time it rains? It's very likely that
Mm-hmm.
you're going to start to be a little bit anxious, right?
Absolutely.
You may want to consider talking with someone so that you
Absolutely.
can get through that. Some people don't drive on the beltway just because of that very thing, or don't like driving during the rain because of that very thing. And as long as it's something that sometimes it's something that can be an issue, but you're able to manage it, that's okay. But
Right.
if you start getting to the point where you know what, I can't drive in the rain.
Oh yeah, like you just like it's raining. So
Yeah.
if you're at work and it starts raining,
Yeah. And you
now
can't get home.
you stuck at work until
Mhm.
it stops raining.
Mhm.
And if it doesn't, you're calling somebody to come pick you up. I mean,
Mhm.
it sounds extreme, but I'm pretty sure that
Yeah.
things like this has happened.
Yeah. Now
And
let me talk about one last part
yeah, go
about
ahead.
grieving.
Mm-hmm.
Grieving and seeking counsel with grieving. Grieving isn't just about death.
Mm.
Grieving is about the loss of relationship.
Mm.
Grieving is about the loss of a job. Grieving is about the loss of things. And so, if those are the things that you're still, thinking about, and you just cannot move past what you have lost, and it is just sitting with you,
Yeah.
you know, to the point where it's almost paralyzing,
Right.
you should seek out support.
I'm glad you said that because I do think most people um, associate grief with the
Mhm.
loss of life.
Mhm.
But you're very right.
Mhm.
Some people are grieving a marriage
Mhm.
that ended,
Mhm.
or some friendship, or people are very close to their pets. I know that's a life too, but like,
Mhm.
yeah,
And
that's it's
transition of life as well.
okay.
When our children leave the nest,
Oh yes, yes, yes.
it's a different way of life, and some
I,
folks don't know how to
that's a real good one.
move,
That's a real good one.
move
I
to the
thought that was
next
gonna be me
part.
for real. To
Oh, I knew that wasn't gonna be
you
you,
did, man. I just knew.
because you picked up 10 other things.
I got said, oh, my
You're
son is
too
gone.
busy.
Let me go ahead and get
You're
another
too
child.
busy.
Yeah,
Mm-mm.
no, but I honestly, I was actually, I'm not gonna say I had anxiety around it, but I definitely was worried that because so much of my life during that season was
Mhm.
him.
Mhm.
Uh, whether it was taking him to practice,
Mhm.
going to his games, going to whatever was going on at school, so much of my life was
Mhm.
centered around him.
Mhm.
I could see how
Mhm.
someone could get stuck
Absolutely.
there when now they're off to college or they
Mhm.
leave out they move out the house, and now
Mhm.
all of a sudden what am I to do, because
Absolutely.
so much of my life was centered around that child.
Mhm.
Wow, that
Mhm.
that that was really good. I definitely didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Um, okay, this is some good stuff. All right, where are we now? Oh, speaking of children,
Mhm.
that goes into the very next question.
We keep
Okay,
doing that.
we going right into it. So I want to know, how can we support our children, especially school age kids
Mhm.
who are dealing with social anxiety.
Yeah.
I Donovan and I, we do the high schoolers at the church,
Mhm.
and so many. We did like a questionnaire a couple Sundays ago, and we asked them like, hey, just whatever it is that you want to talk about, or you want to talk about it but you can't speak on it, write it down.
Mhm.
And so many people were talking about social
Mhm.
anxiety,
Mhm.
but also PTSD after dealing with some type of trauma at school,
Absolutely.
because there's been multiple shootings,
Mhm.
all
Mhm.
types of things that are happening at school,
Mhm.
and bullying.
Yeah.
So
It's
how
big.
do we get to support our children with these type of issues around mental health? Because this generation, I feel far more than any, and maybe it's because now we're really talking about it. So maybe it's always been there,
Mm-hmm.
right? But now we're
That's
talking
good.
about it, right? So which
Yeah.
is great. But
Mm-hmm.
now we're seeing this thing bubble up to the top, and we're like,
Mm-hmm.
wow,
Mm-hmm.
why are so many of our babies
Yeah.
struggling?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's the part of it is the saturation of it too.
Okay,
It's happening
unpack that.
so much.
Okay.
The reporting, the access, the exposure to
Mm,
guns and
that
violence,
part.
social media, because what's not present in front of them is on social media. It's one or the other.
That's it. Okay. So
You
it's not
know.
in the home, but then it's on the phone.
Right.
It's not in the home, but it's on
Right.
the phone.
Right.
There it
They
is.
have access to it, unfortunately, for our children. And so the first thing that I said is to seek the supportive services that are in within the school.
Okay.
See what the school is offering first. Because they should know their community.
Yeah.
They should have community resources that are most, quickly available to you. And so I said do that first. But talk with your child. And oftentimes we don't do that. And a lot of times we don't do that because we don't want to hear what they have to say.
Ooh.
Sometimes, our children can be a little brutal and they're honest. However, we want to hear what they have to
Yeah.
say, and parents don't feel guilty, right? I know as a mom, when my child would get in trouble, the first thing I would do was start feeling guilty, like I did
What
something
did I
wrong,
do?
and I wasn't the one in the classroom cutting up.
Girl, I lived in that principal's office from second grade to 10th grade. I
Yeah.
mean, literally, there wasn't a year that went by that I wasn't in that principal's office. There wasn't some type of suspension. There wasn't some type of something. And it was definitely very challenging. I was like, what can I do?
Mhm.
What am I missing?
Mhm.
But again, too, it is a part of discovering. And
Absolutely.
we, again, like you said, weaponizing. We're humans. We're evolving. We're
Mhm.
developing.
Mhm.
And part of that is we explore. We're curious about
Mhm.
ourselves,
Mhm.
others, life, and sometimes we act out. All of that is part of becoming.
Absolutely.
All of that is part
Absolutely.
of becoming. And so, as parents, we definitely cannot, you know, we can't. What is that? Internalize
Mhm.
when our children
Mhm.
are going through a season of something,
Absolutely.
right? But we definitely want to be there if they're going through a season of bullying,
Yeah.
because that's something else that my son experienced when he was in school.
Mhm.
So, and that was very difficult, because I'm gonna tell you, that was a very rough time.
Yeah.
It was a very rough time. You talk about prayer. I
Mhm.
was praying, but
Mhm.
I also got my baby a counselor.
Yeah.
He was
Yeah.
right over at the little counseling center off of
Mhm.
thir- I can't remember, right over there by the church.
Mhm.
But yes, because it was devastating,
Absolutely.
and I did not know where he was
Mhm.
mentally,
Exactly.
and I needed to make sure that although I was praying
Mhm.
and although I was talking to him,
Mhm.
I
Took
just
some action.
knew, right, that he needed someone who could ask the right questions.
Mhm.
Okay, because
Mhm.
mama may not be asking the right questions.
Exactly. And mama may be ready to go somewhere and kick somebody's tail.
That
And
part.
that's not necessarily the most
No,
appropriate thing to do.
absolutely.
But you need to spend time with the child and understand what they're experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
Observe them. Look at their friends. Listen to what they talk about. Don't be too busy.
Oh yeah, never be too busy.
Because I know we got to work, we got things to do, you're moving and shaking,
Mm-mm.
but I
Nah.
understand where it is that they talk the most. My son would get in the car with me from football practice and he would talk to me all the way till we got home.
Oh yeah.
But then as soon as we hit the door, no more talking.
No more talking.
So I was like, I I couldn't get him to talk in the house, but if I took him to dinner,
You can get him to
talk.
talk.
Yes. And I said, well, what is it about going outside? that he'll talk outside but not inside. And I still don't know that to this day. However, it didn't matter because the what mattered was that he was talking.
Right, and you figured out what got him to talk.
Exactly.
Because everybody is different.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
we ate as a family. You
Mhm.
got to figure out what it is, like you
Mhm.
said. And but that car, I can't say this, parents, use that car.
Yep.
Okay, my baby, I made sure, and now and don't get weary in well doing. Right, I'm serious.
Don't.
Because for 3.5 years, I say 3.5 years because by his senior year, he got his license finally, so he was driving himself to school. But I had him reading that Proverbs every day in that car. What's today? Today the 12th. Get on it. Get on Proverbs 12. And then not just read it, but then we talked about it because I wanted to make it relatable to him because that's another thing. We have to let our kids, and you can't be afraid to
Nope.
talk about your stuff.
Yeah.
So when we
That's
would talk
right.
about things, I would tell my son know all my stuff. I told him. And you have to, and that goes back to the second question about how important is it to know your family? Because if they don't know, then they're gonna think that they're experiencing something
Yep.
that is
you
you.
never did.
Right. And I needed him to know that I am the least perfect person. I
Not
am.
only that,
Yeah.
our children want to know we're human.
Absolutely.
I remember saying that to my mom because my mom was the first lady. It was like, the first lady.
She's still the first lady. She's very regal.
She is. She definitely is.
Very regal.
And so, in that first family, you don't go through nothing. You're not experiencing anything. And I said to my mom one time, I said, I just wanted to know you were human. Like you went through something. And so now we're in relationship that she will share things. And so I have in turn talked to my son about things that I've experienced, growing up, coming through this part of adulthood, like where he is even
Right.
now. Because they need to hear about real life experiences,
Yes.
but also see that you were an overcomer.
Absolutely. 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 They need to know that it's not going to always
Yep.
be, it's seasons in life. So absolutely. Wonderful. Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. One more thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I say you need to build a village.
Oh, yes. Please talk
Build
about
a
that.
village around your child, even if
Yes.
things are going well.
Absolutely.
Build a village, and the village should have people from multiple ages that they can depend on. Someone close to their age, in different generations, all ages, someone that they can rely on. I had plenty of grandmas, plenty of aunts, all of that when I was coming through the ranks, right?
Yeah.
I did the same thing for my son. And even, he wrestled. We had folks that, during wrestling season, all right, they would pull him up. Football, we had football, but I also had the football moms, right?
Yeah.
He got my girlfriends, my his aunties that he can pull on for
Right.
various things.
Right.
Even to this day, he knows he can call so and so for this,
Right.
or he can call on this person for that,
Right.
because it's the village that
Absolutely.
all works together. Because
Absolutely.
guess what? One, they're not gonna always want to talk to you.
They're not going to always want to talk to you. Absolutely not.
And
Absolutely not.
two, you're not always around.
And then three, you don't always have the answers.
Yep.
How about that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
No, you
Yep.
need to go talk to such and such about that because I don't have the answer for that. Yeah.
And for me, I was like, I'm a woman, very much a woman. I'm a girly girl too.
Yes.
So telling a boy that's going through clear puberty and all those other things,
All of the emotions.
I couldn't tell him all the things.
Right. Right.
And so while he could talk to his dad, he's still, that's still a parent.
Absolutely.
So having another person that they can reach out to,
Coaches.
it doesn't always have to be a licensed clinician. It's a trusted individual.
Yeah. So, like I said, coaches,
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
children, other friends, parents, or people from the church, so forth. All right. All right, where are we now? Mental health is such a buzzword and no longer has a negative connotation as before.
Mm-hmm.
However, and we kind of talked about this a little bit before,
Mm-hmm.
what would you say to the person who is still hesitant in sharing their struggles or seeking help?
So I say find your person.
Mm,
I tell people that are my clients. They
okay.
sit in front of
So
me.
you said find your person. What do you
Find
mean
your
by that?
person, a trusted individual.
Trusted individual.
We all need a person, right? Now, it's some of us who are blessed to have more than one, but we all need that one.
Mm,
One who doesn't cast judgment, one who you can confide in. You know, you need that person. Sometimes that can help break the ice. But let me say this about even finding a clinician. It is most important to find the right fit.
mm.
Because you sitting here telling all your business, all your good business,
Oh, you're good.
and you need to make sure that it's the right person sitting across from you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so you can interview a
It's a
clinician.
good one.
You
Interview.
can.
Interview.
When you reach out, do your research. Go look it up. Because what you want to know is what you're looking for. If if my daddy just died and it wasn't from a traumatic death, but
Mm-hmm.
you know they passed on, they were 90 some years old, or you know whatever, you want to go seek out a grief specialist. If you have experienced a physical attack, you know, a traumatic car accident, if you know, experience domestic violence, human trafficking, any of those traumatic episodes, you want to go to someone who specializes in
Okay.
trauma.
Yeah.
You know, and so you're doing your research. You're going to go seeking out. You can go on psychologytoday.com.
Okay.
There is a whole list in there of therapists of all specialties. And it may be specialties that you didn't even think that people specialize in, but they do, you know. And so you want to make sure that you can talk with someone who's the right fit. And so you can ask them, do you do a consultation? I just need a few minutes. I want to interview you. And most clinicians will do that and they'll sit and talk to you for 15 minutes. You can tell in 15 minutes whether they're right for you.
Mm.
You can, because your energy connects. If not, then you said thank you and you move on to the next person. I always say pick three, pick
Okay.
at least three, and do your interviews and then decide based off of what kind of information, because
Mm-hmm.
they should come on and that 15 minutes should be about you and what they can bring to you, and you have your own questions to talk with them about. And so do your research, but also think about how you want to use the space. And if you're not sure, that's okay.
And when you mean when you meet with them,
Mm-hmm.
what
Yeah.
are you gonna talk
Yeah.
about?
What is it that you're thinking that you want help with? Because that's one of the things that you want to talk to them about. Okay, I experienced this car accident. So now I can't drive on the beltway. So
Yeah.
I need to know if you can help me with that because I'm having some severe panic attacks when I just even think about driving, right?
Yep.
Or I'm triggered by men walking past me and whistling,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I don't know why. Something's coming up for me, and I
Right.
need to understand what that is. And so think about how you want to use the space
Mm-hmm.
so you can talk to them about it. That way you can make the connection with them so they can tell you what they do. It's just like the dating. What are you bringing to the table?
What you bring it to the table? But what I also heard you say is don't don't do it alone. Don't
Yeah.
go it alone. What you're
Yeah.
saying is you need to find somebody
Mm-hmm.
because what I also hear now more than ever that people are more isolated and
Absolutely.
alone
Oh
and
yeah.
doing life by themselves and nobody knows what's going on with them.
Girl, you see my notes.
Oh no. And I was just going to say, I talked about this several times in some of the other series, but what I do for a profession is I manage property.
Mm-hmm.
And I have so many people every year who die,
Mm-hmm.
no one comes looking for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Literally, the detective comes back and he's, they're like, do you have anybody? We're like, no, there's nobody. And they'll
Mm-hmm.
come back and say, there's nobody. No one came to get them
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
we're doing life
Mm-hmm.
alone.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so you're saying at least have one person
Mm-hmm.
that you
Mm-hmm.
can talk to.
Mm-hmm.
You said to break the ice.
Mm-hmm.
Then once you're used to talking to them and sharing with them,
Mm-hmm.
maybe you be more willing
Mm-hmm.
to get
Mm-hmm.
a licensed professional
Mm-hmm.
who is trained
Absolutely.
to help you. Because listening to your friends may have good intentions, but
Right.
they may have bad advice.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You said a word.
I'm just saying. I done
Mm-hmm.
fell in that a couple times.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Broke my ankle
Mm-hmm.
and on
Mm-hmm.
crutches.
But I was gonna say, just don't try to do it alone, because loneliness is a silent killer.
Yeah, it is.
It is a silent killer. And a lot of times, especially us as women, we think ain't nobody going through this but me. And I'm just going to stay over here by myself. I'm going to just take a weekend. The weekend turns into a week turns into a month turns into 3. And the next thing you know, you have completely iced out
Mm,
everybody. And it's
mm,
sad if no one comes to look for you, but it's even sadder if you reject
when they do.
when they do.
Mm,
Because sometimes some people do reach out. It might be a month or two later, but somebody may reach out. That could be your person. And
mm-hmm.
so I just encourage you. Even me and my girlfriend, we were going through dark times. We had a code word.
Oh,
And she knew if I sent her that word, either come get me or call me. Like I needed a connection.
did you guys hear that? I love that.
And so that's something that you can have with a person,
Yes.
because then they know. Oh, you know what? Okay, when I
Yeah.
get off tonight, I know I need to call Day
Right.
because she's struggling right now. And it was just for various reasons,
I really love that. I
And
really love
so
that.
that coworker, I even used to do that with my son. If he was having a hard day at school, I knew if he texted me and said something, I said, okay, let me get off. I need to go
That is.
pick him up.
I really like that.
So you can do that with your children, whomever, so that that's a safe space. And sometimes it wasn't even about that I needed her to come and talk to me about what was happening. I just needed space. I needed
Mm.
my friend.
Yes.
I needed
That energy.
connection.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
But you said something about loneliness. I'm sorry, that really touched me
Mhm.
because sometimes we can be lonely around a bunch of people.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And and I'm just going to be very transparent. I know for myself, I often feel very lonely.
Hmm.
Often feel
Mhm.
very lonely.
Mhm.
And so that is a word. When you said, people just, like, okay, I'm going through this.
Mhm.
And I also am a person, I don't like to burden. Like, I
I
don't like to
know it.
burden. I don't like to burden people. And so sometimes because of that, you take things on and
Mhm.
you try to, So, and that's why I said this topic is very near and dear to me
Yeah.
because I'm very transparent about the things that I struggle with.
Yeah.
Like, it can get low sometimes,
Mhm.
especially people who have a lot going on. They're
Mhm.
doing a lot of
Mhm.
things and
Mhm.
who are very driven.
Mhm.
Um, don't think that, oh, it's just, the one good thing, me and my husband had this conversation the other day. I said, honey, the best thing God did was give me a really bad memory. uh, you said what?
Why did thing ding? The screen ding.
Oh, I don't know.
Uh oh.
But
Maybe something up.
I said, I'm glad that God gave me a really bad memory
Mm.
because the reason why I said that is because I should be sad. Like, I'll be sad and then I'll forget what I'm sad about and then I'll be right back to whatever, whatever, right?
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
it does happen.
Mhm.
I do get lonely sometimes. I do feel those ways. And so you said a word right there.
Mm-hmm.
And so for any other women out there, or men, or whoever, when you are feeling that way, make sure you reach out to someone.
Absolutely.
Make sure I'm going to give me a code word because you just blessed me with that. So, yes, so
Can
that
I
was
say one
beautiful.
more thing
Yes.
about loneliness? We have to
I'm
understand
sorry. Go ahead.
what how loneliness shows up,
Mm-hmm.
because oftentimes loneliness can drive you to go do some erratic things.
Ooh.
You know, you may have been in a relationship and then you broke up, and a couple months later, you said, well, you know what? I'd rather be with him, so I'm gonna go and seek him out again. And that's not necessarily the direction that you wanted to go in. Or you may decide, you know what, I'm gonna go get some sweets and I'm gonna just eat sweets for a couple, I'm gonna go eat this cake. And then tomorrow night, I'm gonna eat a candy bar. So, what does the loneliness what does the loneliness do to you? How does it show up? How does it look? And those are the parts that can be super isolating. hmm So just realizing, what it is that you can do to keep yourself in a state of, okay, I'm feeling lonely. So here are the things I need to do to keep pushing, right? To get me out of this. Do I need to just go text my girlfriend and say, "Hey, we're going to go hang out today
Right.
cuz I'm lonely." Like, or do I just need to go do some retail therapy, because that's okay, as long as as
Is
long as
it?
you can still pay your BG&E
Oh,
bill,
okay.
so.
I was gonna say that could be scary. Um, and I know we're wrapping it up, but what resources
Mhm.
would you or can you leave us
Mhm.
for all the things that we talked about
Mhm.
tonight? Do you have one or two that you can? I know you
Sure.
gave us one
Mhm.
already, which was
Mhm.
the website. Yes.
psychologytoday.com. You also, most of us work, so you also can seek employment assistance program through your
Yes.
job.
Absolutely.
Seek out what type of insurance covers what you're experiencing, or go through your insurance carrier to get, seek out any kind of services that they have. Now, most insurances have case management, so
Oh
they can
wow.
help you out with various resources. In your own communities, you have several options for licensed clinicians, psychiatric rehabilitation programs, those types of things that you really can seek out for help.
That's awesome. Awesome. Wow. This has been a wonderful conversation. We touched on
Yeah,
so many different
so
things,
many.
so many different things. And I honestly, I was just blessed by the whole thing. And like I said, and I walked away with having a code word,
Mm-hmm.
because next time I'm feeling lonely, I'm gonna make sure I put that out there to my trusted, few that I
Mm-hmm.
have,
Mm-hmm.
to say, hey, right now I'm gonna need you,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that. This has just been wonderful. I hope that everyone got something from this. Um, you gave us a lot to think about, to chew on, to put in our tool bag. Like, that's what this whole series is about.